There comes a point in every person's life when you have to stop asking, how do I get people to respect me? And start asking a much better question, what kind of person would naturally deserve respect? Because there is a great misunderstanding about status. Some people think status is money. Some think it is expensive clothing, a luxury car, a large house, or having thousands of followers. Some think it is walking into a room and making everybody notice you. But real status is quieter than that. Real status is self-command. It is the ability to walk into a room without needing everybody to like you. It is the ability to leave a conversation without having the last word. It is the ability to say no without feeling guilty. It is the ability to keep your promises to yourself. It is the ability to protect your time, your attention, your principles, and your future. And here's something interesting about life. The more secure you become within yourself, the less you need to demonstrate your importance to other people. You don't have to announce that you're confident. You become confident. You don't have to announce that you're disciplined. Your habits reveal it. You don't have to announce that you have standards. Your decisions reveal them. So today I want to give you 7 rules for high-status living, not rules for pretending to be important. Rules for becoming the kind of person who carries himself with quiet confidence, dignity, discipline, and self-respect. And if you practice these 7 rules consistently, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop chasing respect, you start becoming respectable. Rule number 1, don't force connections. Let's begin with one of the most expensive mistakes people make with their time and emotional energy, trying to force connections that aren't naturally there. Think about how many people spend their lives trying to convince somebody to like them. They send another message, they make another phone call, they invite someone again, they explain themselves again. They try to become more entertaining, more useful, more agreeable, more impressive, and eventually they forget a very simple truth. You should never have to audition endlessly for a place in somebody's life. Now, this doesn't mean you should become cold. It doesn't mean you shouldn't make an effort. Good relationships require effort, friendships require attention, families require patience, partnerships require communication. But there's a difference between nurturing a relationship and chasing one. One is mutual, the other is exhausting. You can open the door, you cannot force someone to walk through it. You can offer friendship, you cannot force someone to value it. You can demonstrate love, you cannot force someone to reciprocate it. And sometimes the most dignified thing you can do is stop pushing. Let people reveal themselves. Let relationships develop naturally. Let people choose. Because here's the beautiful thing about life. When you stop forcing the wrong connections, you create room for the right ones. You discover that you don't need 20 people around you. You need a few people who are genuine, a few people who celebrate your progress, a few people who tell you the truth, a few people who don't require you to become somebody else just to belong. And here's another lesson. Never confuse loneliness with failure. There are seasons when you will walk alone. Use them. Build yourself. Read, learn, work, think. Develop your character. Improve your health. Strengthen your finances. Discover what you believe, because if you cannot enjoy your own company, you'll eventually accept the wrong company just to escape yourself. And that is an expensive trade. So stop forcing connections. Give people freedom to choose you. And give yourself the freedom to walk away when they don't. Rule number 2, don't give your energy to everyone. Your attention is your life. Think about that. Every hour you spend arguing is an hour of your life. Every hour you spend worrying about somebody else's opinion is an hour of your life. Every evening you spend scrolling through somebody else's life is an evening. You didn't spend building your own, and yet people give their attention away so casually. Someone makes a rude comment, and suddenly their entire day is ruined. Someone criticizes them, and they spend 3 hours preparing a response. Someone misunderstands them, and now they feel obligated to explain themselves to death. Why? Because they haven't learned one of the greatest disciplines in life. Not everything deserves a response. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to answer every criticism. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to prove every point. Sometimes the highest form of intelligence is knowing what deserves your energy. Imagine you had a bank account that contained only a limited amount of energy each day. Would you spend it on gossip? Would you spend it on strangers? Would you spend it worrying about people who don't contribute anything meaningful to your life? Of course not. You would invest it carefully. That's exactly how you should treat your attention. Give it to your family. Give it to your work. Give it to your health. Give it to your education. Give it to your purpose. Give it to the people who genuinely matter. And when somebody tries to pull you into unnecessary drama, learn to say, "This isn't where my energy belongs." That's maturity, not weakness, maturity. Because you eventually discover that peace is not something you find, it is something you protect. and you cannot protect your peace while giving everybody unlimited access to your mind. Rule number 3, let your actions speak. One of the strangest things about human beings is how much we like to announce what we're going to do. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to start the business. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to become disciplined. And then sometimes after making the announcement, we feel as if we've already accomplished something. But talking about the future is not the same as building it. You don't need to tell people you're disciplined. Wake up and do the work. You don't need to tell people you're ambitious. Produce something. You don't need to tell people you're trustworthy. Keep your word. You don't need to tell people you're intelligent. Become useful. You don't need to tell people you're successful. Let the results speak. There's something powerful about a person who doesn't constantly advertise himself. He simply works. He improves. He learns. He delivers, and eventually people notice. That's how reputation is built. Not in one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of small moments. You said you would arrive at 8. You arrived at 8. You said you would finish it. You finished it. You said you would call, you called, you made a promise. You kept it. Small things, but life is mostly small things, and those small things accumulate into character. Your reputation is simply the history of your behavior. So don't spend all your time managing your image. Manage your behavior, because if your behavior is strong enough, your image will take care of itself. Rule number 4, never trade your self-respect for acceptance. There's a price for being liked by everyone, and the price is usually your identity. Because if your greatest goal is acceptance, you will eventually become whatever the room wants you to become. If the room wants you to gossip, you gossip. If the room wants you to drink, you drink. If the room wants you to mock someone, you mock them. If the room doesn't respect your boundaries, you abandon them. And you call it fitting in. But fitting in is not always belonging. Sometimes fitting in is simply losing yourself slowly enough that you don't notice. You need principles. You need things that you will not trade. There must be a point where you can say, I understand that you disagree with me, but this is what I have decided. That's strength, not arrogance. Strength and understand something important. Having standards doesn't mean believing you're better than everybody else. It means deciding what kind of life you want to live. You decide what kind of relationships you will participate in. You decide how people are allowed to treat you. You decide what behavior you will tolerate from yourself. And sometimes that means walking away, not because you're angry, not because you're trying to punish somebody, but because you finally understand the value of your own peace. You don't need revenge, you need distance. You don't need to make someone feel bad. You simply stop participating, and when you learn to walk away without hatred, you've learned a very powerful form of freedom. Rule number 5, become comfortable with silence. One of the most underrated forms of confidence is the ability to be silent. Some people talk because they are afraid of silence. They feel the need to explain, to justify, to fill every empty space with words. But silence has a way of teaching you things that noise cannot. When you become quiet, you begin to notice. You notice how people behave when they don't get what they want. You notice who listens and who only waits for their turn to speak. You notice who celebrates your success and who becomes uncomfortable around it. You notice who respects your boundaries. You notice who only contacts you when they need something. Silence gives you information, and sometimes you learn more by observing somebody for 10 minutes than you would by listening to them for 10 years. So don't be afraid of silence, use it. Before you respond, pause. Before you make a major decision, pause. Before you send the angry message, pause. Before you accept the invitation, pause. Ask yourself, is this actually good for my life? That's a powerful question, because a mature person doesn't simply ask, can I? He asks, should I? You can respond. But should you? You can attend. But should you? You can argue. But should you? You can spend the money. But should you? That little pause between impulse and action is where self-control is built. And self-control is one of the foundations of real confidence. Rule number 6, don't compete for attention. There is a strange disease in modern life. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants to prove that they're winning. People photograph the meal before they eat it. They announce every achievement. They broadcast every purchase. They tell everyone where they're going. They show everyone what they're building. And after a while, you have to ask, are they actually living? Or are they constantly documenting their life so other people will believe they're living well? Don't fall into that trap. Attention is not achievement. Likes are not legacy. Visibility is not value. You can become famous and remain empty. You can become wealthy and remain miserable. You can become admired and still have no peace. So don't make attention your goal, make competence your goal. Become excellent at something, become knowledgeable, become dependable, become physically strong, become emotionally stable, become financially responsible, become someone who can solve problems, because when you become genuinely useful, you don't have to chase attention, people come looking for you. There's a tremendous difference between saying, "Look at me," and becoming so good that people naturally look. The first requires constant effort. The second is a consequence. So build quietly. Let people underestimate you. Let them wonder what you're doing. Let them see nothing for a while. Then let the results arrive. There is no requirement that everybody understand your process. You don't need an audience for every chapter of your life. Some chapters should be private. Some dreams should be protected. Some plans should remain between you and your work ethic, and that's not secrecy. That's focus. Rule number 7, don't explain your standards. Now we arrive at the final rule, and perhaps this is the one that will change the way you interact with people more than anything else. Don't explain your standards endlessly. If you have decided that you won't tolerate disrespect, don't write a 10-page explanation about it. If you've decided that you don't participate in gossip, don't spend an hour explaining why gossip is bad. If you've decided that you're going to protect your mornings, protect your mornings. If you've decided that you're going to take your health seriously, take your health seriously. If you've decided that you're going to save money instead of spending everything you earn, save the money. A standard becomes powerful when it becomes a behavior. Otherwise, it's just a preference. And here's where many people fail. They establish a boundary, somebody complains, and suddenly the boundary disappears. They say, "I don't like being spoken to that way." Someone responds, "You're too sensitive," and they back down. They say, "I can't stay out all night." Someone says, "You're boring," and they abandon their decision. They say, "I don't want to participate in that." Someone says, "You think you're better than us," and they begin defending themselves. Stop. You don't need everyone to understand your standards. You need to understand them. That's enough. When someone disagrees with your choices, you can simply say, "That's okay. This is what works for me," and continue. You don't have to turn every boundary into a debate. You don't have to convince people to respect your standards before you live by them. Your life is the explanation. Your consistency is the evidence. Your results are the proof, and eventually people learn. They learn that when you say no, you mean no. They learn that when you give your word, you keep it. They learn that you don't participate in unnecessary drama. They learn that your time has value. They learn that you won't betray yourself for acceptance. And that is how boundaries become respected. Not because you demanded respect, because you demonstrated consistency.